And in terms of public policy, your neighbor just down the border there, New Jersey, has already passed legislation using the New Jersey Elder Index to revise the eligibility period for the state's senior property tax freeze from 3 years to 1 year, which is significant for many. In Wisconsin, the Elder Index has been used in state budget negotiations, and in one county it was used to increase the annual cap for the county's Supplemental Emergency Energy Assistance Program. California, we have an exciting piece of legislation that I hope we're going to mirror, frankly, on the national level as well throughout the country. It is a bill that was introduced called the California Economic Security Task Force, which includes a number of provisions. It's a bipartisan bill, but most exciting, it requires the state to do an inventory of state programs that are aimed at either reducing poverty or promoting economic security. Once these programs are analyzed, there will be a set of politically viable, we believe, and responsible, fiscally responsible policy recommendations to improve economic security. And the legislature has also set a goal of increasing economic security for those most vulnerable by 50% as a result of what these new policies that will be recommended will be in place. We are also seeing that in states like Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, SE partners are conducting outreach to elders on the availability of income support programs and to systematically chip away at the stigma that are often barriers to seniors who are reluctant to enroll in programs. They're somehow embarrassed by it, despite the fact they've often paid into the government to get these kinds of programs. The usual moniker in several of these campaigns are, "It's not your fault." And working with broad-based state coalitions like that in New York, Massachusetts, can reach so many people with the hope that some of the information that we're providing through this index will encourage folks to make plans when they can, where necessary, draw on public supports at the same time that we are trying to make policies that are more sensitive and reasonable. What we see on the state level is mirrored in the agenda that the SC Project has on the national level, and we work collaboratively with our state partners in some of these national efforts. Of course, there are many, many different issues that we could point to. The 5 that we are placing our greatest emphasis on a federal or national level are the following. Defining measures of economic well-being and poverty, retirement security, including safeguarding Social Security and promoting pension reform, making long-term care more accessible and affordable, improving access to employment and training for older workers, and using the framework of economic security and the Elder Index in policy making. While all of these issues are relevant to you in New York, I want to briefly comment on just 2 that I know is of special interest to our New York partners. The importance of measuring poverty and economic well-being, and the second relative to safeguarding Social Security. As I mentioned before, we owe a debt of gratitude to Mayor Bloomberg for his leadership in New York City, looking at a different measure of poverty than is currently used, which is an outdated federal poverty level, and drawing on recommendations by the National Academy of Science, drafted almost 15 years ago, but yet much more current than the 1964 methodology of the federal level. And President Obama's administration has also set aside funds, the first time since 1964 has the government done this, to develop a supplemental poverty measure based on these recommendations. We think this proposed measure is a first step in the right direction will begin to help us accurately count who is falling into poverty, but is really only the beginning. Even in terms of that particular measure, WOW has weighed in with Congress on ways to improve it. And one anecdote I want to share with you is that when we had a meeting with our SE partners from around the country, we met with the drafters of the congressional legislation, and to our partners' dismay, recognized that while child care was considered a cost, there was no item in there that recognized the need for elder care or dependent care as a cost. Well, you can imagine the drafters got an earful, and in the recent reintroduction of this bill, elder care is there right alongside of child care. What we're here today to talk about, and what we think is the important next step, is to move from just having a measure of deprivation, which is what a federal poverty level will be, no matter what its name, no matter what we call it as new or supplemental. What we really need to be doing is measuring economic security, what it takes. You'll hear from Allison how minimal the poverty level is, which gets us nowhere near what the real costs are. And if we're going to develop policy directions and programs, we believe that the measure that should be used is one that is realistic, reasonable, and which offers concrete information about costs that we all can expect to have to expend. So today we are hoping that while the city continues importantly to work on a poverty measure, that we not forget the need for a second measure. Certainly Congress is well aware of that, and in addition to their poverty measure, they are suggesting there be a second measure, what they're calling a daily standard of living, which is something that we will continue to give input to. Lastly, I want to just mention Social Security, which continues, as I said earlier, to really be the bedrock of economic stability for seniors, especially here in New York, where 25% of seniors rely solely on Social Security. I mean, a very large proportion. And we'll hear more about its challenges, not in terms of solvency as much as inadequacy, that the Social Security system is not meeting some of its expectations as it relates to reaching out to the most vulnerable. On the other hand, it is, without the Social Security income, for most people, they would be moving into poverty very, very quickly. So a lot of our focus is on looking at issues of adequacy. We are cognizant of the impact that the newly created National Commission on Fiscal Responsibility and Reform may very well have on the outcome of Social Security policy. We are hopeful that with a bipartisan commission, there will be opportunities to look at the impact of Social Security, its importance in the lives of so many people, as well as creative ways of dealing with what the country is coping with the deficit, and not inextricably link Social Security to solutions within the deficit. We think that transparency will be essential in the implementation of the operation of the commission, as well as in whatever the implementation of the recommendations are. But this is an important time for us to weigh in, and we believe that we have a tool, the Economic Elder Index, to weigh in an affirmative and positive way to demonstrate the value of providing seniors with the necessary income to be able to age and place, and in dignity. I know that we will have much to learn from our New York partners as they begin to utilize the New York Elder Standard. We look forward to that, and we just thank you so much for being a part of the national initiative. And on behalf of my WOW colleagues, of which two are here, Stacy Sanders and Alicia Howell, we really thank you for being part of our national movement. Thank you.